I decided to step up to this mic because it's time for a little spoken word in this fight. See, forget angels in flight. I'm outer space Star Trek electric. But I stay in your sight range. I want you to hear this pain, this laughter, this uncensored adventure. Let it rain on you like chemical breakthrough. I'm here to change you. Make a third eye grow spontaneously from your forehead and let you see new things. What the priestess can bring, my poetry is conjuring, and my smoke and fire rise higher as I sing, because even poetry can't carry everything, but it carries most things for me. So thank you for letting me be a voice in your night like a radio late show, sensual, slow, but real. Striving for my personal ideal, and in this moment, loving each and every one of you for all that we go through on hot nights in July or in June, sandwiched in our little living rooms, waiting for artists to come and spit truth. The priestess is ready for some poetry. Are you? Good evening again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Culture in Maine, York's most fabulous cultural showcase. We have a special episode this week in that we are going to be hearing from some incredible spoken word and performance poetry artists. Of course, one of my favorite fields. We have Elijah Pearson, who was the winner of the Jawstruck Spoken Word Festival. He's young, but he is fierce. We have G. Mills, who's coming down all the way from the Harrisburg area. And he brought Kwote Man, one of his inspirations, and an incredible poet in his own right. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's show.
If I was going to write a love poem, it wouldn't be about you. Or about your moonlit-drenched veins, or the way your smile looks like the pearly gates had a love affair with the Kama Sutra. I don't care how many cigarettes I have to smoke to forget the taste of your skin. Soon I won't taste anything at all. Your lips will always be absent from mine. We can't shake hands with the sunset if we never see the sunrise. So let's live our lives in those 4 a.m. conversations with heavy eyes. Tell me it's okay to want to die sometimes. My skin and bones have felt the cool and fading touch of the sandy graves you call your thighs. We are older than time. The embodiment of half-formed thoughts and vague notions of love. But we're not in love. And no amount of poetry will put your lips on my lips or your hand in mine, so we walk this delicate line of looking past each other into the crowds where we once met eyes with sly smiles and raised eyebrows. And if I was going to write a poem about you, it would be about the way we never loved, but loved far too well the idea of love. It would be about the skin inside your cheeks slowly giving way to someone else's tongue, someone else's cigarette-stained fingers. The scars on my back will always read your name in Braille. We have only ever been shallow wounds in each other's skin that never really heal, and no amount of poetry will fix it. I will never love anyone as much as I loved Bukowski when I was 14 and alone, and God, I hate how everything reminds me of you. I think if I believed in regrets. My biggest one would be sharing with you the parts of me that never leave the nighttime, so that every time the lights go off, my body aches for you like the desert screams for rain but doesn't really need it. I will never write you a love poem, and your skin will never grace my neck again. We are made of halos and car accidents. I'm tired of trying to convince myself that we can untotal these cars and drift back into our lane. Tired, but alive. Hope is what your heart swims in on the 3rd day of the 4th week when the only consistent thought you've had is that you know you want to die. And you're in love with the idea that your skin will someday become part of the earth and you will literally do anything to be saved except ask to be saved. You're made of paper, and you light yourself on fire with girls that you love to let tear you apart, and someone out there has it worse than you, but all the logic in the world can't reason away this hole in your gut, so you try to eat 3 meals a day. And think rationally, but it hurts to be full when you're so used to being empty, and it hurts to talk to the people you love when you're not sure what you love anymore. Keep hoping it'll get better. Keep letting your heart drown in a feeling you don't quite understand, knowing full and well if you ever had the chance to sell yourself to drugs, love, or the ground, you would auction yourself off to the highest bidder. And you've been living like this for years, quietly selling yourself to whatever will take the numbness away, and sometimes, just sometimes, you let people close enough that they can see the darkness through the cuts on your shoulder, and you ask them to love you back, but most of the time they don't. And you toil in the panic attacks. You live for the 1 a.m. phone calls with a girl that's more tired of you than she is tired. Your best friends will tell you that they're sick of your depression, like you haven't been sick of it since you were 11. And for the record, if I had any other way to get rid of this, I would. I'm sorry I inconvenienced you. I'm tired of writing about this like this isn't my life, like I didn't write my own suicide note when I was 12 just to see what it felt like to admit that the world seemed a lot more gray than it should be. But back then, no one really took it seriously. I was just far too moody to be tolerated. I don't know why my heart still floats on hope. I believe that this will get better eventually. I'm tired of auctioning myself off to whatever will take the numbness away. I'm tired of everything at all. But until the day that I fall in love with myself, I will let my heart float on hope. I have nothing else to give it.
How amazing was that? We are back with Elijah Pearson, the 2013 Junior Jawstruck Champion. So congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
It was completely cool to see you on Jawstruck, which people actually got to watch last week as a special concert episode of Culture in Maine. So they got introduced to you, and now they get to meet you in person as a follow-up to your big win. So your first TV appearance of many. I look forward to your Good Morning America, debut within the next couple of years. So how long have you actually been writing poetry? Because you are quite young.
Yeah, to be honest, this is gonna sound really weird. I used to hate poetry. I used to, yeah. I honestly didn't start writing until a year and a half ago, tops. I mean, I used to write songs occasionally. I used to think I was in a band, for starters, which was a completely different part of my life.
Totally wrong, but just thought it.
But no, I haven't been writing that long at all, and I've been performing since December, so all of this is completely new to me.
But what made you decide that this was a channel for you, that this was an outlet for you?
To be honest, I watched this poem by one of my favorite spoken word artists. His name is Michael Lee, and he has a poem called We're Golden. And the whole poem is just, like, I listened to it and I've never been like so moved by anything in my entire life. Like, I've never been moved to the point of tears because of a poem or watching something on a TV or whatever. And when I watched that and I realized like what his words could do to me emotionally, I realized that like I want to be able to do that. Like, I want to be able to write poems that move people and that they can relate to. And for me, it was always more about other people than it was myself when I was writing.
And your poetry is very personal. I mean, you tell pretty straightforward in beautiful language, but a pretty straightforward series of stories. Is part of your motivation that you want to just get that out for yourself? Are you trying to connect with people and tell them, give them some type of message? Are you trying to reach people in similar circumstances? Like, what motivates you? What's behind that?
To be honest, I don't really know. Like, I write poems when they come to me. I never really sat down and when I first started writing, it was about I want to be able to influence people emotionally like this, but I never sit down and write a poem and think this poem is going to be specifically for people to relate to. For me, it was always just, I'm gonna write this, and whatever happens, however you view it, that's your choice. But I mean, the craziest moment in my entire life was when a guy came up to me after a poetry reading, crying, telling me that he's been where I've been and seen what I've seen. And for me, it was always just, that was just the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And
that's cool.
That's my motivation to keep writing, is for people to be able to relate to it and people to be able to say that I've moved them. And if it helps me, that's awesome. If it helps other people, that's awesome. But I just want to be able to influence people's emotions like that.
So does it help you to actually write and tell these stories, or does it keep things real for you that you'd rather forget?
It helps a little bit. It helps a little bit to just be able to get up in front of people that you don't even know and say things that you've never said before. And I've written poems that I'm still not sure I'll ever perform. because for me they're too real, and for like I just don't know if I want to relive that.
Okay.
But a lot of the time it's things that you get up there and you're just like, this is what's happened to me, and it's nice to get that off your chest too.
That's true. Does it now? Sometimes for me, sometimes there's certain poems that I will write to get it out, but then I don't want to revisit it. I don't like to read it over and over again. But with other poems, the more that I speak about it, it almost like takes the sting out of it. You know, it desensitizes to a certain effect. I'm now able to talk about things more casually and relate to them. As you perform certain pieces over and over again, do you find that you're now able to speak more freely, or is it still only in the poetry that can come out?
See, it's kind of a confusing situation because, like,
what is it?
yeah, it's my entire life. But I would never really be speaking about these situations in front of groups of people that I don't know before, like I've never met before, and this is like my medium to do that. But at the same time, I've never really been closed off about my experiences. I mean, I've been in and out of hospitals for depression, suicide attempts, whatever. So it's kind of hard to be closed off when you're into those situations, because you get question after question after question from this doctor and that doctor and your parents and your aunt twice removed that heard that you were in the hospital and wants to know what was wrong. It's hard to, like, at that point, to just keep everything in. Everybody wants to know everything, and it gets to the point where you're so desensitized, you're just like, yeah, I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
So what would you tell to the teenagers and the young people that are in similar situations, that are dealing with anything from broken hearts to addiction to depression and feelings of suicide? I mean, you have done so much to take charge of your own life and take charge of your mental state, take charge of your expression. And regardless of what you might still feel and deal with every day, you are still making the effort to deal with it. You're still saying, you know, I'm here, I'm me, and I am a real person, and I'm confident in that. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have the ability to speak the way that you do, that can't get in touch with their emotions like you do. How did you find the courage to decide to keep going?
That's honestly a question that I'm not sure I'll ever be able to answer. I can't ever point to one moment in my life and be like, that's the moment I decided that I want to keep going. You just got to get through what you are faced with every day, and it's easy to say, like, it gets better.
Right, it's greater
hard,
later.
Yeah, it's just hard for it to actually get better, and honestly, you just kind of got to hope for, you got to hope for change, hope that it gets better, and there's going to be days where you feel like you're going to die, and there's going to be days when you feel like it's not even worth it to keep going, but you have to do it, because it's never going to get better unless you keep going. If you just end it now, then it's over.
You've lost that chance for that right around the corner that might be there.
And it might not be right around the corner. It might take 10 years for me to be completely happy again and feel like I'm living a normal life. But if it takes 10 years, it'd be worth it, because I know that there's days when you're just, one of the best days of my life, I was just laying with one of my best friends in the grass in last June, just listening to the crickets in the highway. We didn't say a single word. We just laid there and listened to everything, and it was one of the greatest days of my life. And I genuinely felt happy for like the first time in years. And I know that days like that are worth living for. I know that every single day of depression and wanting to die and wanting pills or whatever you need to get by is worth those little days of happiness.
Wow. That is a message worth taking home. Thank you, Elijah.
You're welcome.
Good job.
I'd like to begin this session with a signature piece on peace, because peace is so necessary for survival. Peace is to create harmony, or peace, to end all hostility. Peace, the quiet, calm tranquility. Peace, the undisturbed state of mind. Please let me put this in a rhyme, and I'm gonna write this on a line, and you knows how's I likes it. Plus, I's coming in blind. I'm in the running for the Nobel Peace Prize. A dude run, run, run. A dude run, I rise. You all were lost, but now we're all wise, no longer dead, 'cause my words bring life. No more one track mind. Feel the freedom in the vibe, and if you're in this room, you can't hide from me. So take sides with me. Come confide in me. Tell me quick now what it is you see, and you gotta look past Galilee. 'Cause it's all in the same, but my name, it doesn't define me. It's all about one's actions. Did I feed them? Or satisfaction guaranteed. And you need to forget what you think, 'cause I'ma say what I want, 'cause the crowd is right in front of me, and I'm knee deep in some sheep. I said, bah, bah, the ignorance, it still stinks. So let me wash up them feet so that you can walk with me, 'cause I want you to believe that I'm here to confirm to ya that peace is the formula, but you're still in grade 3, 'cause you wanna get a gun. I saw the destruction that's about to come. I am from the universe, and never done. I transport back and forth just for fun. I'm already my son, son. I guess you could say I'm on a mission to unlock the system, 'cause you're still in prison. Brainwashed by your television. Told a lie to all of the children, all 80 billion, chasing illusions. That's the cousin of confusion. And when they get together, y'all be losing. Now who's a fool's on? Fool's paradise. Tell me who's really real, and then who is really nice. Now I got the dice, and I'ma roll this ice right, 'cause I'ma save me some souls tonight. Check it out, check me out, watch me get hyped. Listen to me prime your minds, preparing you with inner light. Now take in what you heard, and then take it to the streets, door to door, curb to curb, and take pride in these verbs. Love is the action word. Ignite the flame, feel the burn. Time's up, I hope you've learned. 'Cause it's your responsibility. Yes, it's finally your turn. Peace. This next poem I want to dedicate this to all the prophets and all the poets that came before me, as I speak into the ether to the teachers that set my feet on a straight and narrow path of the inner peace. No more double-minded doubts. It's time to dismiss duality. And as I rid myself of schemes, restorations and restored nations make abundance the reality, if you choose to believe. But if you don't believe, well, then it won't affect you. But if you do believe, then it will protect you. It will perfect you. It will connect you. Let my Father Elo bless you. Or should I say, bless us all today. Reverse the curse. Use the universe so we get our way. Let it accommodate all the things I say, as passion paves the way. Once again, G Mill saves the day, 'cause I engage the powers in my phrase. Dikaru Allah, with all my love I give praise. Meditate, focus on that place. The key is intertwined in that space in your mind. Concentrate, open heaven's gate. See your life in paradise. This is now your fate with faith. Let us now replace All the things that hold you back, let's deem them all erased. Now I raise, cause all your spirits gave their decision of this living. It's what it wants. So pay attention. Look at you sipping. Feed them as they're listening. Freedom is your vision as I detach you from the Trilateral Commission. So stop bitching and return from the missing, cause your ancestors want you to change your condition. Cause what I've given, it's in sound, not in sight. I'm not the flesh that you see. It's the energy inside of me. Like the avatar, I'm part Elohim. I am part king. I'm a part of everything. And so are you. This is not a dream. You must die to the reckless way of thinking that rapes your peace. I plant the seed. I speak the language of the trees. There's no violence in their silence, in their wisdom, far beyond me. Even though that's a natural instinct, we're so far from our natural state of awareness, the ego got careless. No common sense. Ignorance made you selfish, but I'm not here to sell this. Have no fear. If you're feeling a little helpless, I'm here to help. And I know that you felt this. Hell, it's well put. Blow the kiss. Class dismissed. Tongues of flame, sons of light, let us come together in a circle where we chain it tight. And as kings of the ring, we unite, become stars of the night, of the sound table. I invite pictured words worth 1,000 gigabytes as the fire ignites. Let it burn. It'll change your life. And you know I speak it right. Yeah, this is how I write. This is what you get when I recite. Heated smoke chokes me in my windpipes, but I gotta let it out because my larynx way too tight. Blazing mics with my mouth. I said stop, drop, and roll, cause it's hot just like the South. And you can really feel me when I make it loud. Goosebumps and wisdom lumps assist me as I move the crowd. And I'm black and I'm proud. That's an old rule from a bold crew. And I'm sold at the fact that when I got back, I chose you. And I don't know if you're ready for this whole truth, but what we need to produce is knowledge with these new schools. So these young dudes can come up off these bad moods. If we're gonna make it through, make your bed so you can choose. Cause it's time to make moves. Red alert if your children's out there acting like fools. Red alert if you think your woman's being untrue. Red alert if you see a pimp in a red suit. Red alert if you think the mirror's looking at you. Cause that's not your reflection. You're the image of the Creator himself. So stop guessing, start addressing. You don't need no more proof. You the gods that they praying to. And I dare anyone to top that news. Oh, tongues of flame with a hint of blue. Oh, G-Mill brings it to you because the G-Mill will rule.
I'm here with the incomparable G Mills. G Mills, also known as Gary Miller. Now, your poetry is so performance-oriented. How do people respond? Because you're a little bit quirky. I mean, we know this. You're a little bit quirky. How do people respond when they see you, like, in the venues?
Now, you know what? The first time they hear me, it's like no one says anything. And when I'm done with the poem, it's quiet. I'm waiting for a response. But then, you know, when they realize that it's over, you know, I get a really good response. I really believe that it's because of it's not just the energy, but it's the lesson. The words that I'm speaking is the things that I believe that are installed in each and every individual. There is a peaceful person in each and every individual, but people are just so bombarded with negativity every day, day in and day out. So, like you yourself, you have a peaceful and a quirky way about yourself. So when you hear that, yeah, you can relate. And I believe that, if you can find that vibration that relates with everyone, that's the key to just like changing the world. And you can't change the world unless you change self. So if you're peaceful at heart, then that's what you start speaking about.
So do you feel that there's a particular philosophy or message that you're trying to get across in your poetry? Like, what do you want people to come away with after you've shared energy with them?
I want them to find their way. I believe that we all have purpose. I think we all have a purpose. The only thing is, you have corporations out here who need you as well. So it is designed to almost mislead you, because when you have to get up and go punch a clock every day, you're not really showing your purpose unless you're in that field, or if you're in that field and that's what you strive to do, then of course then you're doing something that you love to do, and it makes your life fulfilling. But many people today get up and punch a clock. They're not excited about getting up and going to work. But this here, this looks exciting for you. You look like you are like a duck in water, right?
I do love what I do. I do love what I do. So is poetry what gets you excited in the morning? Is that why you're still writing it after as many years as you've been performing?
Well, you know what? I'm almost, it feels like at times, and I'm repeating it. And it comes to me in, like, I don't want to say dreams, because I'm not always asleep.
But almost like visions.
It's like visions. Oh, that's a good word. I'm glad you're here. That's what it does. And I don't really have to write down a lot of things, and it's not really coming from memory. It's just the heart. What you do understand, though, is that the mind gravitates to the rhyme. If I said to you, now I lay me down to sleep,
I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
See, everybody in the world knows this.
Right.
You understand? So if I can put in a poem words that may change your life, or vibrations of sound that you pretty much already know, but once it comes to you and it reminds you that, hey, I got purpose, man. What am I doing here? And you start living your dream and just waking. If I could wake up a nation, that I can change this nation.
So where does this purpose come from?
Oh. Now that is the question of questions. Where does the purpose come from? Well, I'm a very spiritual man, and I would say from the Most High, and I'll leave it at that, because I don't want to get into any different religions, because it's not about religion. It's really about all of us. When I speak, you're listening. Okay. I need you. I mean, if I'm just speaking in a field and nobody hears me, right?
Right, the tree falls in the forest.
But the idea is, okay, I need you to hear what I'm saying. So, it all comes together, and we're all connected in a way where,
So you feel like you get as much out of sharing your poetry as people receive when they're able to hear it. It's about that connection that you forge between you both.
When we form that bond, because that's what it is, a bond. We make a bond when I'm performing. Most of the times, it's in front of one of the greatest audiences I've ever performed in front of, because of how they respond. Because I know that they're really listening. And I know that they're really listening because they're really feeling a certain type of way about their own lives. Now, I don't know everybody's lifestyle and what they do.
Right.
But
you never know.
There are some very basic things between you and I that everybody shares. All right, we all share in love and in hate, and the basic things.
We try not to share in hate, but we feel it.
It is what it is.
We feel it.
And being able to have some type of control, especially over the negative side. You don't want to participate in that. And that's why I'm always doing my poetry, or my sessions, I call them, on positive energy, because positive energy is like 1,000 times more powerful than negative energy.
True.
You understand?
I believe that.
Positive energy, with that comes evolution. But with negative energy comes nothing. Nobody wants to be nothing, right? You don't want to be a nothing nobody, but that's where negative energy takes you. For example, you can have a negative guy in a negative situation. He becomes more negative. Before you know it, he's sitting in the jail. Before you know it, he has nothing. You feel what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So, and it's really ironic because when you're sitting there at that nothing state, been there,
right,
and there's nowhere else to go, then you start changing your lifestyle. Now, a lot of guys become reformed after sitting still, and a lot of times that's all it takes.
So, are you talking from personal experience here now?
I have.
Have you had to reinvent yourself?
Man, let me tell you something. Man, let me tell you something. Everyone falls. Indeed. But that's like if you were walking down the street and you fell, you're gonna have to get up sooner or later, or you're just gonna be laying there. You understand? So you gotta get up. And then once you get up, and what you do after that, and once you start that positive energy rolling, it's like it snowballs effects, just like negative energy. You know, it can get worse, it can get better.
Anything snowballs.
It can snowball, and like this whole experience that I'm having right now. Oh man, this is going to carry me through the whole year.
The whole year. Wow, yeah, that's really serious.
That's good though. That's good. Because now I'm going to feed off of this positive energy, because now people get to understand what the spoken word is all about. I did a piece on Tongues of Flame.
Yes.
And I'm talking to all those who uplift and raise people's, inspiration is everything. And if you can inspire someone and change their path, not if they're on a good path, of course, but change those who are on a negative path, then you've done a good thing. And there is you feel so self-satisfied. You feel so self-satisfied if you can actually get someone to come up and say, hey, listen, I really enjoyed what you said. And people always ask me for literature and CDs and DVDs or whatever.
Your merch. Gotta have your merch.
You gotta have your merch. But I'm a little lacking in that department. Right now, I am the book. So wherever I'm at, I'm the book.
Now, I don't think I've ever seen you perform from paper. You always have performed from memory. Do you actually have the pieces memorized, or is it that you're just speaking from feeling and it sort of just comes through you? Is it different every time?
Oh, man, that is an awesome question. These poems or these sessions, these are like my children. See, I know my children inside now. Just like my biological children. They don't think I know them, but I know them in and out. And I know my poetry the same way. And it started out with the memorization thing. But then after a while, it just started, it just got easier and easier, like a duck in water. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
So now when I go out here and speak, no, I don't have to really sit and think about what I'm going to say. It just flows. So I know it's purpose. It's purpose. I'm the carrier of the word, and I'll run with that. I claim that. We'll do it like that.
I like
claim
that.
Yeah.
That's what you claim. That's the victory you claim. You are the carrier of the word.
Carrier of the word.
Now, I know that you brought somebody with you today who you said was a real inspiration to you.
Let me tell you about this dude.
Tell me about this
dude. His vocabulary is ridiculous.
What?
And I didn't, when I first met him, I thought I was always talking to the rep self, not the real guy.
Right.
Because he's
They said we have a representative. So, that's who talks for us in public situations.
But no, he talks like this all the time. And he's a true quote man. Every time you turn around, he's quoting something. But his quotes are so meaningful that it makes you think. And that's what I think he tries to come off, like he wants you to think. And that's always the best thing to do, is to think before you react or act.
Think before you speak, think before you act.
Speak, everything that
That's why I like poetry. You're not just spewing it out. You actually have to really thoughtfully find the best words to convey the emotion, to reach someone. It's how am I going to reach this person? How am I going to put this emotion in a package that someone can open and understand?
Ooh, I like that too.
And to me, that's why poetry it's like an elevated level of conversation.
That's right. And you know what? You can get in trouble now for saying too much. But if you're saying, if you say it in a poem, then the whole freedom of speech thing is just right back here
there
again.
You go.
Right? So
you can say whatever you want.
If you want to say something, put it in a poem. And they won't be able to say anything. But if you say something too sharp, well, you might get yourself in trouble these days. So with the poetry is true freedom of speech, and you know, I think it's becoming so popular, and it's always been popular, but now more so than ever because of just the negative energy. And I'm not down in any other musician, but with the dialogue that's out there now, it is so, some of it, not all of it, some of it is just so ridiculously
simplistic and negative.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Help me out here.
Just saying.
It just, and it's pounding every day, day in, day out, pound, pound. If you watch these kids, they got something on their ears. What are they digesting? And, you know, we really got to start getting involved back with what's being put out there. We really do. If
so
we're
it's time
change,
for a poetry renaissance so that we can have
change everything.
an attitude of positivity to counteract the negative bombardment.
We gotta jam that frequency. We gotta jam that negative frequency. Excuse me. That's
like
important.
that.
We have to jam that with the positive energy through the spoken word. That's where.
Nice.
That's what I feel that you know. That's our purpose. And you're doing a wonderful job. Look, I'm in a studio and everything, so I should be able to touch a whole bunch. How many people is gonna watch this?
40,000 households.
40,000? I thought you said
Yes.
40. Oh man, 40,000.
Negative. Well, let's bring Kwote Man up here and let's have him share some message.
Let's bring Kwote up here and listen to what this dude does to you. But you got to listen to the dialogue now.
Okay.
Because you're gonna have to go back over it. Like I'm sure this thing
I'm gonna have
is
to keep my Google app ready.
You got to keep it ready because you're gonna have to rewind it. You're gonna have to loop it to understand what some of the stuff, you know, some of the stuff that he's saying. So he's an off the chart poet. So
let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
How fine is the line between persistence and insanity? How can my past be behind me and in front of me at the same time? I won't let go because it reminds me, and my future can't flow because my past confines me. This mental double-edged sword continues to define me. Half of me hears Erykah Badu sing Bag Lady, and the other half is Every Beautiful Word of Butterflies by Floetry. And being that I'm trapped under the weight of my own fears, I've searched for a solution at the bottom of liquor and beers. Bottled up is a term that doubles for my thoughts and actions. No one realizes this, so I've chosen poetry as a form of closed caption. Because when I choose substance abuse, I only receive temporary satisfaction, which impregnates my mind with seeds of self-destruction. And that makes it hard for me to police this pollution. It increases the strain on my brain as I reach a conclusion. So I twist the cap, pour it down the drain. Now I have completed the abortion. And the road to recovery is difficult because I've just killed a part of me. And though it was toxic, it was still a part of me. Chaos is what fostered these words that I've chosen to regurgitate. And regardless of my past, my future, it will no longer manipulate. The fact that I'm standing here is proof in the pudding. Because if not for my love of spoken word, I wouldn't. Give in to the powers that be, I couldn't. So I close my eyes and my future becomes visible. Spiritual, emotional, financial wealth becomes residual. The things that once haunted me are now minimal. And the desire to share these things is now continual. And it's been written that what happens to you in life forms your character. But what if your childhood was a disaster? Bottom line, life is all about choices. And if you've made some bad ones in the past, try listening to your inner voices. The greatest gift known to this world has been beaten out of black men and taken from little girls. And that is the ability to grow and the luxury to know that we are too deeply rooted in this world to ever let go and give way to the prejudice and hatred that pumps from their hearts and runs through their veins. Our gifts to improve this world, they will fight to restrain. Our ideas to advance this world, they will call insane, but then turn right around and introduce them as their own and receive all the fame. But the time has come for us to rewrite the rules to this game. No longer should we sit back and do nothing but complain. It is up to all of us to ignite a change. Unless cheated, deprived, denied is where you want to remain. Yeah, I know, you're only one person, but so was Harriet Tubman, and she ran the Underground Railroad with no train. Just imagine how many more she would have freed had massa not washed their brains. So no matter what your excuse or reason, they all sound the same. That's why I've chosen spoken word to break me free from these chains that bind my brothers and sisters from the city of angels to the city of brotherly love. I love this thing we call spoken word. And as God is my witness, I won't quit this until every ear is heard. This is not something that I do. This is something that I live. And I promise to give until my heart stops beating and my body's laid still. But then I will rely on the quotes that I spoke and the words that I wrote to echo in every ear and mind that followed each and every line and read between them to find the difference between what was said and what was meant. So those who feel me know that my third eye is dominant because it's kept on the sparrow, which is why I worry not about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. No matter my wealth, I've invested religiously in my mental health. So like a stealth, I'll move undetected, but I'll take a pen and a paper as my bomb and a new story is resurrected. This right here has been a long time coming. And like Jesse Owens, I'm not going to stop running from this generational curse until I finish first. It's not that I feel I need to be better than everyone else, but it's about challenging oneself to say what needs to be said and to feed those who need to be fed. So if you are hungry, let spoken word be your water and bread. Pull up a chair to this lyrical buffet and listen real close to what these poets here tonight have to say. Because there's two things for certain, one thing for sure. When we're done blazing this mic, you're going to be starving for some more. Peace.
Last week marked the 6th anniversary of the tragedy of Sandy Hook. The following poems testify to a weekend that I spent of prayer and presence in that area. We call for peace. Madeline, Noah, Dylan, Daniel, and 16 more. I am reading the roll when imagination revisits. Decades of fresh and sleepy faces, their bright or lidded eyes connect to my own, Olivia, Emily, James, and Benjamin's. Thousands of morning pledges, prayers throughout each day follow the attendants. Chase, Grace, Jack, and Jessica, Jesse, Allison, Avielle, Catherine, Caroline, their hands that rise for questions. Charlotte, Anna, their hands that rise for answers. Josephine, their baptism in rapid rhythms of staccato fire, their tiny faces awash. Names remain. I am teaching American epistolary traditions. We talk of connections and words. We talk of need and solidarity. Father Luke is sitting by the fireside, the room ablaze, when he explains about the 18,000 letters and how boxes have disordered the regularity of rectory sparseness, how they are moved from the daily mailing crates, neatly assembled into little piles, read and reviewed, fondled and felt. Here is one from a bishop in India. Here is one from a small child in South Carolina. He will answer every one and publish this message to the world. We are gathered in the Sandy Hook Library when the grief counselor arrives. She is not what I expect, so savvy and witty. She rides a Harley. She begins by telling us about cliches, how time doesn't heal all wounds, how if you lay your bike down, you need to call in a doctor to reset the thing. She has been to the beach of tsunamis, stood in the shadow of the towers, talked to the firemen who cradled that toddler out of Oklahoma. To her, Columbine is not the thing that grows. I have forgotten to turn my cell phone on and slink out to hear the news. My granddaughter has arrived after 26 hours of labor. The organizers dance and cheer with me. In the hallway, we embrace just outside. The deacon is sitting in the sanctuary, 100 children at his knee. He is talking about movies when he pulls out the ruby slippers. "Where is home?" he asks them. "This is home," they say. Days before, a nearby room is filled with tiny caskets. The security guard stays awake all night and reads them stories, the ones his son would like. The statue of Fatima is on loan. She stands humbly in the music room on an untuned piano among bygone faces. My host tells me sometimes she weeps. Sitting serenely before her, each prayer is wordless thought. Today, more than 5 sorrowful mysteries encircle me. They move beyond the beads, floor to ceiling windows, bring snow-covered hills and shadowed woods inside, the cathedral of my being, suddenly so small.
The incredibly moving poetry of Dana Sauers is now actually about to become the moving interview with Dana Sauers. Now, I'm so geeked to have a local celebrity on the show because not only are you a poet who has done some amazing mission work and a lot of your poetry comes from that, you are also an emeritus poet laureate of Hanover.
Yes, that's correct.
In fact, you were one of the first of the entire program and have been really instrumental in helping select other laureates and helping publicize that program. And honestly, you're probably still the most visible to this day, I think, of all the Hanover poets that I know. What was that, like having that position, how did that change your interaction with the community and getting you out there and encouraging you to interact with people on a different level than just as a personal poet?
Right. Well, I think I came to the position with over 30 years as an educator.
Right.
And so standing before middle school students, high school students, and college students for that long, it's easy to make communal connections.
That's true. That's true.
And of course, being an educator, there's all this networking that you have. And so you call all kinds of people to kind of, let the words flow. And you find that the community is very warm and accepting to allowing you an opportunity to educate through words.
Now, have you found that the community has been very receptive? I know poetry can sometimes be a hard sell. It's not always what people think of when they think of a great way to spend a Friday night, or something that is even relevant in the contemporary community, because when they think poetry, they think historical, they think,
Right.
old male voices. So, and I know that a lot of your poetry is very fun, or it's very emotional and moving. It deals with a lot of contemporary events or international events. So you really keep it fresh. But is it hard to find people that are receptive and open to it? Or when you're out there educating and reaching people, they're like, oh, yay, poetry.
Right.
So exciting.
Well, I think that we all come to our place of contribution by simply putting invitations out there. And when I first became Poet Laureate, as you know, that tenured position is something that we develop.
Right.
So having a journalism background, I went to the editor of the Hanover Evening Sun, and we had a nice little conversation over coffee. And Mark Charisse said, my stepdad, he really turned me on to poetry when I was a kid. Why isn't there poetry in the newspaper anymore? And with that, we kind of engaged.
Well, let's make it happen.
Right? Let's make it happen. And so every week for 2 years,
right.
I was asking the community to send poetry to me. And I had all kinds of young people and older people and very educated people and homeless people, all kinds of people coming and sending their manuscripts to me. And I was able to showcase them over 2 years. So that was kind of neat. So I found Mark Charisse very, very supportive. But going to the library or going to the schools, I think if you bring in a positive attitude, an understanding of community and connection, I think people get really turned on about poetry, actually.
That's true. Well, I know you run a venue that is at the Ragged Edge Coffee House.
Yes.
Every first Friday, and that's 6 p.m.
Right.
And that place is always packed, and it's an absolute who's who of the poetry community. I mean, the people that you get to read there and the people that just come. I mean, you have like the most accomplished stacked open mic of any reading in the Tri-County. How did you get that to develop, to become sort of the bastion of poetry that it's become? Like, what is your vision for what you want your reading to convey, and what you want its reputation to be, and what you want its vibe to be for people that are looking at readings to come to?
Right. Well, I would have to, I think I have to give, kind of tip my hat to Anna Manahan Bowman, the first Poet Laureate of Hanover.
She's
something
wonderful.
like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, the Hanover poets were driving all over the place to Carlisle and Harrisburg and, Baltimore, and we were just going everywhere, and we made all of these great connections. And so I call all of these poets to this place. And I think probably the best thing that I do is just create an environment of safety where people can just share who they are. And that's my vision. That has been my vision for the venue, this venue, and another venue that I had done for the high school over 10 years. Just creating an environment and a space for people to get together and to share is very important to me. I'm a very peace-loving person. Peace is very important to me.
Yes. That seems to be a theme that has been moving through a lot of these readings today. Now, your desire for peace and your belief in peace is not just something that you speak about. It's something that you put the footwork and the time behind. In fact, your last couple of books have come from your mission work. How did those two things end up coming together for you?
Yes. Well, actually, I was very inspired by a student of mine, Jared Allman, about 12 years ago. He was going to St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, and he had done some service work in Central America. And he came and he said to me, "Boy, you'd be really great doing this work." And I said to him, "Jared," I said, "I'm not the person who goes forth. I'm the person who sends others forth." Right? And he said, "Well, if you ever hear that small voice, you have to promise me you'll say yes." So
that's a compelling.
Yeah.
What do you say when someone says that to you?
So I'm down at Mount St. Mary's University, and Dr. Deanna is out there, and she's basically out in the foreign language department begging for towels and pencils for the poor. So I went out and I said, Deanna, I know all kinds of really generous people who would be very helpful for the poor. So she said, okay. So a week later, she's out there begging for more, and I'm like, Deanna, I told you I can get you whatever you want. What can I do for you? And she said, I want you to come. And with that, I heard Jared's voice echoing, and I said, yes.
Gotta go.
I just said yes. Of course, I went home that night, and my husband said, you're going where?
You're nuts.
There are crocodiles down there. You can't speak Spanish. But I'm a poet, and I'm a mystic, and I have learned to listen to the small and large voices of myself and to try to encourage other people to get those voices out for the betterment of themselves and society. I just really believe that there's no gray area. You are either a builder of the kingdom or you are a destroyer of the kingdom. And you know, when I first heard about Newtown, I was listening very much to my heart, and the first thing I thought was, what can I do for these people who are in this horrible state of suffering? What can I do for them?
And Newtown is
in Connecticut with the Sandy Hook event, right?
Right.
And then the very next question that followed was, well, what are you doing to contribute to peace in your day and in your life? Immediately, what are you doing? And I think the question has to be before us all the time. You know, it has to be before us.
What are you doing to make the difference?
Right.
So not only did you go to these places, to go overseas, to go to Sandy Hook, but you've also written poems about it. Was that a continuation of the ministry, or was that a way for you to just process all that you'd seen and heard when you met these people?
Well, I would say, Carla, that philosophically speaking, I'm a truth seeker. I want to seek the truth, I want to live the truth, and I want to testify to the truth. And so I tried to go into a geographical area where I can observe and then testify to what it is that I find. For me, there is an objective truth. Right? Okay. For me, it's not a situational reality. There are situations within our reality, but I believe that there are things that are beyond our situations. And so I try to go in and I try to just keep my eyes and my ears and my heart open to what that experience tells me so that I can bring it back and I can act as an educator to the world.
Wow. So now, when you're working with the kids that you are trying to teach, how do you get them excited? How do you get them to see the relevance of the word, of poetry, of literature in a Twitterverse, basically,
right,
where kids are existing purely on the visual, purely on what's in front of them, not necessarily on what you have to take time to sort through and understand and be a part of?
Right. I think the way that I go about that is just to inspire them to acknowledge how much power they have within themselves. And that the word isn't the word in and of itself, but a conduit for relationship, right? To me, poetry is a vehicle for a larger thing. It's not the thing itself.
Right.
It's the opportunity for the larger thing. And my students are very, very receptive to it, because as soon as you can get them to understand that there isn't anyone like them in the whole universe, and that their voices and their ideas and their feelings are so important and so unique, as soon as they get a sense of who they really are, then they want to share it, because it's a celebration. It's a celebration of self, right?
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. So what is coming, what is next for you? What's your next great adventure?
Well, I'm kind of in the midst of an adventure that will lead to another. My next adventure is, of course, I went to Peru, and I'm working on a manuscript.
And you just got back
I
not
just
that
got
long
back.
ago.
And so I'm working on that manuscript. But that manuscript will act as an inspiration for my next service mission. I'm actually hoping, instead of going outside of the United States, actually going to Appalachia and working in a mining community.
An area of great need.
Yes, because poverty exists globally, but poverty exists very close. And, you know, as I'm going around to some of the grade schools and I'm talking about culture and I'm talking about poetry, I always tell them, you know, you don't have to go to a foreign country to be a missionary.
Right.
You know, all you have to do is thank your mother and father for a wonderful breakfast this morning and be kind to the young man or the young lady who's sitting next to you. Yeah. Right? It's about this moment.
Right. There might be someone who desperately needs what you have to say at the corner bar, at the bus stop.
Exactly.
In a class next to you. I've had people, you know, come up to me at readings and just weep after hearing a certain piece.
Sure.
And tell me, you know, their whole life story. I've had people at Walmart that might have heard something I was talking about or reading on the phone or something like that and tell me, you know, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that today, and just start spilling. It really seems like people have so much in their hearts that they're just waiting to find somebody that's interested enough to listen.
Right.
And it just pours out of them as soon as someone shows that they care enough to want to hear what they have to say.
And, you know, don't you find that poetry is more about listening and less about speaking?
Yeah.
I do. Because in order to craft the poem, you have to spend a lot of time listening and paying attention to the smallest of details. Yes. And then once you share that, the conversation that follows is just, it's magical, isn't it? It's just magical, the way we can connect with one another, complete strangers, held together by words.
Ooh. That just gave me chills.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Culture in Maine. Now, I know you know the deal by now. Find us on Twitter. Find us on YouTube, on White Rose Community Television's YouTube site. Find us at WRCT.TV, Channel 18, Show Profiles, Culture in Maine. Make sure you find us on Facebook, too. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear your show suggestions. And we also want to just spend some time with you. Be blessed. Share your art, share your word, and thank you for supporting the incredible community that is the York area art scene. We're blessed to be able to share it with you.